the underlying thing is, if you don't understand the actual basics and fundamentals of what's in place or what somebody's doing, it's easy to overlook why you're creating a website.
You need to find out what problem the website is solving for that person. There's a reason behind why we're doing that, because it's based off of data. It's based off things like Microsoft Clarity and finding out what sections work.
Hello, and welcome to the Into the Void podcast. It's our job to make digital marketing friendly for you. And so, before we get into this episode, we'd like to point your attention to our free website audit. Uncover the truth about your website's performance with actionable insights delivered straight to your inbox. Visit the link voidapplications.co.uk/free website audit, fill out the form, and get access to key information you need to make sure your website succeeds. Now, on with the episode. Enjoy.
Into the Void, episode 1, take.
Hello, and welcome to Into the Void, a friendly guide to digital marketing. I'm your host, Neil Cooper, director here at VOiD Applications, and seated with me is the MD of the same business and co-host of the pod, Chris Carter. How's it going, Chris?
Good, yeah.
Like the intro?
Podcast. Intro was great.
Professional.
Yeah.
Just like our
editing
website.
the applause afterwards.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, nice. The first episode of what is a new journey for us. Over the course of last year, we was trying to get onto our own content marketing. It's something that we try to tell the businesses we work with constantly, that it's not necessarily podcasting, but just brand awareness is key. And so we need to put that into play ourselves. And we thought, what better way than not only our written blog posts and the webinars and seminars that we're doing, but also a podcast. So this is the first episode. I've got the jitters, to be honest. I bet you
Did a bit of colouring on my iPad beforehand. I'm relaxed.
Yeah. The
good.
tap by. Yeah, I'm gonna have to.
It's good.
That. I'm gonna have to do that myself. So going forward, we're gonna be doing different episodes based on different things. But this one is mainly to focus on crafting user-friendly websites, which is our bread and butter. If we're gonna talk about, I suppose actually, the opening question in order to get onto the subject of today is there's multiple ways of thinking in order to tackle how to create a user-friendly website. There's design cues and guidelines that we can follow. There's easy enough research that can be done by looking at current trends, websites that you enjoy, as well are seen as the standard.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think the end goal is a website that works for you, your business.
Yeah.
Whatever your aim is to get views, to get users on your website, or to get inquiries.
Yeah. And a lot of the
user-friendliness, if that is a word, that brings more of your end goal. You're going to more likely hit your target if it's user-friendly. Yeah,
and there's ways and means of like figuring out what that for us. It's been a lot of trial and error, and we changed the website last year. We're now undergoing a transformation now with a new website, and through all that research, I mean, there's, like I said, there's multiple ways. There's looking at what your competitors doing as well, but the underlying thing is, if you don't understand the actual basics and fundamentals of what's in place or what somebody's doing, it's easy to overlook why you're creating a website, who the website's for, and you could be completely missing the ball when it comes to your demographic, your niche, and who you actually want to target, right?
Absolutely.
So I suppose the question I want to raise first, which isn't a small one by any means, is what is the actual importance of user-friendly web design? That's a massive one to start
massive
off
question.
The podcast.
I think let's start from the beginning. You understand what your website needs to do and who your target audience is through discovery. We'll look at this from a business point of view. You know who your target demographics are. You'll have your personas, and through discovery, you'll find out what service pages you need, what language you need to say, where your call to actions need to be. All of that needs to be done, whether or not you're doing that with an agency like ours or you're doing it yourself. Yeah. Going back to your question, why is it important? If your website's overcomplicated, if your navigation is overcomplicated, if it's not easy for people to find the information they need, if they can't get in contact or you're not pushing them to get in contact with you, 9 times out of 10 they're just going to bounce, and that's a technical term. They will literally just go, I don't want to look at your website, I'm going to go somewhere else. So you need to treat web users as cavemen in a sense. You need to think, how can I make this as easy as possible?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't, your competitors will.
Yeah, 100%. It's something that we've had to experiment and understand as time has gone on ourselves, right? Being a startup business that has sort of stood the test of time so far, sometimes we've got it right, sometimes we've got it wrong, but taking those things into account, we've got to a point now where somebody comes to you that wants a website doing. However, we have to ask them the questions of why and what the purpose is for.
Yeah, again, it goes back to discovery.
Yeah.
You find we need to do discovery with our clients to
Mhm.
find how we can help them achieve their goals. If we don't do that, the website's just going to be a website, and that's not what we want to
In
create.
a lot of instances, I think it's fair to believe that they come to us wanting a website for one reason or another, and they leave figuring out that they actually need something else. It's still a website, but it's designed.
I think
they're thinking about it differently. So
Yeah.
the frame of mind they're in with why they're coming to us, and that's part of
the
route
website's
to
a
success.
tool at
Yeah.
the end of the day.
Yeah.
You need to find out what problem the website is solving for
Yeah.
that person, that company, whatever situation they're in.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah,
And-
if you're not taking their pains into account and what they're solving, then
Yeah.
you're shooting yourself.
And
in
you
the foot
don't
probably.
have to. Obviously, we'll talk about it from an agency point of view, but if you're doing this for yourself,
Mhm.
think about it for yourself. Put yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Yeah.
Put yourself outside of your business for a second and
Yeah.
think, what are the pains that I need to solve?
Yeah, we've been through it ourselves. Like, this looks really cool. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's latch on to the next trend. But it doesn't answer the questions that get asked from who needs it, right? So
Yeah.
I suppose with that being the overlying question, I'm going to link it into some points of a smaller scale to understand how that affects the overall concept, right? So
Yeah.
things that affect the decision making on designs, right? First and foremost, layout and navigation. I know you've got some points to make with regards to layout
Yeah.
and navigation, so I'm going to let you.
So when we talk about a user-friendly website,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to think of the layout, the way that things look, the navigation, the style. And there's a few things that you can take into account here. Navigation. Try and make sure that you create pages and content that you can get to with 2 or 3 clicks.
Yeah.
It's not a hard and fast rule, but if a user needs to go through 3 or 4, 5 layers of pages to get to the
Yeah.
information they need,
Yep.
they're likely not going to get there, and they're likely not going to do your end goal, which is getting in contact.
Yeah. Your call to actions that are
Yeah,
like,
exactly,
they're just
yeah.
going to completely ignore them, right?
Yeah. Don't bury your pages, basically.
Yeah.
2 or 3 clicks is great.
Yeah.
Try and use design in a way that helps you get your information across in a better way. Like mega menus are a fantastic way of doing that. You
Yeah.
can have simple menus where you just hover over and it shows you a link to the next page.
Mhm.
They work in some sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
If you have a mega menu, you can have a whole width of the page where you can add in more information. It's more
Yeah.
visually appealing. It makes you look more professional. And you can pack that with content.
So a mega menu for people that may not realize they're actually looking at that type of menu, for example, is when you go to well-known e-commerce sites.
Yeah.
And you hover over like the main category. If you're shopping for clothes, maybe you hover over the kids section, for
Yeah.
example, and then you've got the age groups as well as toys, and then you've got an image that dictates each section and whatnot. So you can use those in multiple different ways, whether it's to create call to actions, whether it's to link to something else, or whether it's to show an example of where they're actually going on the next click, right? Just that in itself cuts down the amount of time they have to do to spend looking for something. So
Absolutely.
even if you've got organized menus already, just another example of making it intuitive for the user is a mega menu.
Call to actions is probably
Yeah.
the most important.
Call to
part.
actions is massive.
So it needs to be embedded into your design.
Yeah.
Every section, your content needs to be telling a story about you. You need to be guiding them through a journey.
Mhm.
Each section realistically should have a call to action. You need to be guiding them to do something that you want them to do.
Yeah.
Again, think of the caveman analogy I used earlier. Hold the hand, go, we're coming on a journey. Whether or not that's read more information, click here to get free web audit in our case,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
go to your contact
Special
page.
offers,
Yeah,
contact
anything.
form, events.
Anything that gets them to interact with you, so
Yeah.
you can start the sales process.
I suppose in that case as well, just to make mention of it, not that we're going to be talking about the technical sides of things, but retention matters as well, doesn't it?
Yep.
It increases your numbers, which is what Google wants to see at the end of the day as well, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
customer retention, user retention, time on the page, less bounce rates, so it looks like you've got actual valid information.
Yep.
All of these are taken into account within your website. So,
Well, when it comes to bounce rates, a bounce rate is an okay metric of
Yeah.
finding out how well your page is doing.
Mm.
But if your content's really good
Mhm.
and you have an embedded contact form on that page, and the form's doing well, but the bounce rate's high,
Yeah.
don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It all
Pick your
depends.
battle sort of
Yeah,
thing,
absolutely.
So I suppose with all of that taken into consideration so far, because even though they're like they're smaller subjects that we could talk about, this all affects responsiveness and mobile friendliness, right? Like even the mega menu concept. When you're designing the menu for desktop laptops, even tablets,
Yeah.
you've then got to take into consideration how that works with mobile phone menus. We've had to do it ourselves with how we're going to cut down the information so that it's concise to the point, but still follows our branding and what we want to do with it,
yeah.
right? And then you've got to take into consideration also page content, call to actions there, and how this affects the end user, especially when it comes to e-commerce clients.
Yeah, responsiveness and mobile friendliness, it's a must in every website now, because, and I'm going to break here and just ask producer Nathan, what was that percentage? 60 to 80% of users on e-commerce websites are from mobile. So if your website doesn't look great on mobile, it doesn't work great on mobile. It doesn't flow well. The call to actions are in different places, or you're not holding the hand as effectively as you would on a desktop.
Yep.
You need to address that. So it's massively important. Your imagery needs to tell a story as well.
Yeah.
And that will be different on mobile and desktop, because you've got more real estate on desktop than you have mobile.
Yeah.
And the further down the page that content is, the less likely people are to see it. So all of these things need to be really thought through when you're designing your website, from the point of discovery, which is what pains do I need to address? What content do I need to create? What pages do I need to create?
Yeah.
Where do the call to actions need to go? All of these need to be looked at.
Yep. Like I say, it's easier said than done. All of it comes with experience, right? And that's the thing where we get put in a position where we have to explain this to the clients that come to us. When we do talk about these things, I suppose there's a lot of people that they may see like the services offered where you can just build your own website. Yeah. And especially when you're trying to get into any sort of line of work, any sort of business, they're really good services, because not everybody can afford a website at that point, right?
Yeah, you might not be at that point in your business journey. If you're a startup or it's a hobby website, they're fine. You won't get the same services you would from an agency like ours. You won't get the experience. You are on your own.
Yeah, and I suppose that's why, just to make it clear to people with designing websites, that's why we want to we take all of these things and we put them under a microscope. Even though they might seem little, it's necessary to go through these stages so that we can understand how you're best going to use your website, how the user's going to best use the website, in order to get a return on investment. And it's definitely a thing where you won't be able to get that from some of these website build providers. Not saying that that's a bad thing. They have their service and they definitely have their place in the market. It's just that when you are approaching a digital agency, these are the type of things that you want them to look at in order to make sure you're going to get like you bang for your buck, basically, right?
Yeah, well, we do a webinar about online presence, and when you build in an online presence, you need to fully understand where your customers are coming from. And with the web builder, you will be on your own with that. With agencies, you would expect an agency to help you create a persona, to identify them, again, through discovery.
Yep.
But I think definitely needs to be taken into account. You have to look at where are your clients coming from.
Yeah.
That's the most important part.
Yeah.
And that will drive your user-friendly website.
Great. So I think we've spoke about that long enough. We can go into more detail, but it's the first episode, and these strands in themselves, just the layout, navigation, the content and visuals, the responsiveness and mobile friendliness, they can literally be their own episode each time, right? Like it's
Oh, absolutely.
like,
yeah. I mean, we could do a whole episode on the online presence I was talking about with the webinar. I think one of the key feature out of that is whether or not you're designing your website yourself using a page builder, or you're getting an agency to do it, or you're tackling it yourself with something more than a page builder. It's all about making sure that you understand your website is an employee. If you're spending time and money on your website, it needs to be giving you a return.
Yep.
And if it's working well, it's an employee that is working on your business 24/7.
Yeah.
And if you were employing somebody to do that job that a website does, and they weren't doing their job properly, they weren't producing what you expect them to produce, whether or not it's leads, sales, views, interactions, whatever it is, you would be looking elsewhere pretty quickly.
Exactly.
But a lot of people don't realise that with their website.
Yeah.
And it really does come down to how well it's designed.
Yeah. Right, with that being said, then we're gonna move on to the next section. Next section that will be addressing some of the common questions that are generally things that people ask when they're looking to understand how to design a new website, or if you're just taking a general interest. So moving on to the first question, with regards to, we're speaking about design, right? But how does design affect all the other elements? So the first one, a big one, because a lot of clients come to us with, well, our SEO needs improving. We've got a website. The website looks great. It does what it needs to, but our SEO is down in the dumps, basically. So it's a massive monster to tackle sometimes.
Yeah.
So how does the design of a website affect its SEO?
Yeah. So massive issue with a lot of websites is you'll have a website and the SEO doesn't work.
Yeah.
And that's one of the main reasons why your website isn't performing.
We've been there.
The relationship between design and SEO, a well-designed and well-built site will help with site speed. Site speed is an issue with SEO. It's one of the leading factors. If it's not mobile friendly, you won't rank. Your content structure. If your content isn't using the right headers, doesn't have enough content on there, it's going to struggle to rank. It needs to have the right keyword density as well. HTML to text ratio, all of these technical things need to be there, and that comes with the design of the site. Design isn't just about the look and feel of a website. It's about the fundamental way that this is going to work. And unfortunately, we're all working to what Google wants us to do.
Yeah, so Google does have a massive impact, but there's also Google's looking for certain things, but then we also have to take into account just what users are looking for as well, right? And sometimes users aren't looking for what Google is looking for. So there's a fine balance, I think. The balance can be tipped when you're reputable, if you get what I mean. So if you're a client that's looking at competitors and what competitors are doing, and I say that to say a lot of clients will come to us and say, this is what our competitor's doing and it's working for them, we want to do it. Their competitor is already established. They're already hitting all the marks and they can experiment with the design.
It might not necessarily be the design point that they're looking for that is going to tip the balance. It might be that it's the way that it's the content within that design, or it might be some completely other factor that the domain authority is higher or something. You just don't know. You don't know until you have data and experience to tell why. Taking an element from somebody's website that looks good isn't the be all and end all. Some of the best performing websites in the world right now don't look great.
This is cold harsh truth.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
we've seen, like, for us, it happens to everybody. Not to toot our own horns, but over the past couple of years, we've updated our website. Thanks to Keaton, man behind the camera at the moment. We're going through a design update again, begrudgingly, but it makes sense.
There's a reason behind why we're doing that, because it's based off of data. It's based off things like Microsoft Clarity and finding out what sections work for us and what sections don't.
And
so
I say that just to say that our competitors, when we look at their sites sometimes, whether they're in the area or not, we can't figure out why they're so successful, and that's okay. Sometimes it's like, but our site looks better than that, but they're obviously doing something very correct.
You got to remember that design is very, it's relative. It's like art. So you might like Picasso. Yeah. Somebody else might not like him. Mm-hmm. It's just relative. I think that point goes into our next point, where how often should you be updating or redesigning your website? Mm-hmm. It's a simple fact. If your site's not working for you, you should be updating it. Your site needs to be maintained and worked on all of the time, whether or not that's through your blog, case studies, testimonials, FAQs. You need to always be moving with it, because if it's sat there, it's not going to be performing.
Yeah, like a previous point earlier that was brought up with regards to website being an employee. A good manager will check on its employees. Yeah, he will stay in. He'll understand the vibe of the workplace. Yeah, and if you're going to treat your website like that, then you're going to stay in tune with what does it need as far as security measures go, because there's a new security threat every other day, right? So
if you're using
maintenance
WordPress,
is like one thing, but the actual design, are you looking at your analytics and understanding where people are dropping off? Yeah. Are you understanding, like, okay, your whole website's working, but they get to one specific page and then they're not interested in it?
For us, our website has performed better now we have case studies on there. Yeah. Even though Clarity tells us that they don't necessarily spend enough time on the case study to read the whole thing through, unless they are super readers. Yeah. But it's just the fact that it's on there increases conversions for us. So using tools like GA4, Clarity, it gives you the understanding of how well your site design is working and getting people to interact with it, really.
Right. So next question 3, because we just answered 2 in 1 there. How can you make a website more accessible to people with disabilities?
So here in the UK, we have different legal standards to accessibility, but in the US, there's more legal requirements. I think morally, it's something that everybody should be looking at anyway, because it needs to work for everybody. Yeah. You can have plugins like Accessibility, fantastic. Plug that in. As long as your website is built correctly, and this is a WordPress plugin, as long as it's built correctly, it should just do the accessibility for you. Yeah. So it will change the colors, change the text sizes. There's colorblind modes. There's text readers, all of that stuff. Yeah. So as long as it's built correctly, it shouldn't be a problem. Installing something like Accessibility will help. Will give them so many options that you're pretty much set.
Yeah. I can't remember the data off the top of my head. We actually have blog posts with regards to accessibility for disabilities, and it was shocking the percentage that there's a drop off if a website isn't tailored for people with different disabilities, especially color blindness. I don't know if that's the correct term.
But that might be the biggest design point. Like, if we'll all use colors here because none of us are colorblind, but if you need to take that into consideration.
Yeah, massively.
Especially with your branding, I think.
Yeah, 100%. There's, like I say, I can't remember the statistic. I will try and remember that for the next episode just to bring up. But yeah, we've wrote about it in blog posts as well. So yeah, that's a massive one, and it's not just a case of, not only does it help with retention, but it also lets people know that you're willing to design for them. So from a digital agency standpoint, it's a selling point. as well, because you're taking that into account, like, sort of thing. So yeah, we try to do that with our designs, but obviously we're still learning too. And there's always something that can be done better. Is the be all and
things
end all.
move in this industry quite quickly. So yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to move on to question 4. This one's a bit of a bigger one. What to look for, or how can you qualify a web dev or design team?
Good question. I think there's different tiers of service levels that you'll get from a company, companies that will offer web development.
Yep.
The biggest thing we say here is a lot of agencies will be graphic designers who can make websites, and that's cool. There's not a problem. Here we're more developers with graphic designers here that can build and design the websites. You can go from very cheap websites to middle of the road to quite expensive. It all depends, and I think qualifying them, you need to look at what service level you're gonna get.
So
look at their experience.
Yeah, a lot of the things we've mentioned that we can say, like, that it's just a conversation between us. Obviously, we've looked at how the episode's gonna go, but we haven't written this down as a script, and it is coming out naturally. These are the things that you need to ask from them on the spot, right? Sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if I was qualifying somebody, well, let's do it the reverse. How do I try to qualify us to our clients?
Yeah.
Show experience, show that we've won awards, show that the quality of our work that we've done.
That was a cheeky flex, by the way.
We try and answer as many questions as we can on the website beforehand. We really don't compete when it comes to price alone. Obviously, it's a big factor in people making a decision, but we try and look at the process, really. That's the biggest one. If you want just somebody to build you a website, you can get that. If you want somebody to take you down a process-driven approach like we do, where we go through discovery to find out exactly what your content needs to say and your SEO, then that's a different level. Yeah. And I think you need to understand where you are in your level and what
exactly. I mean, the thing is, even if it's a case of the people that you're going to work with, if they can give you some sort of answer, that's better than nothing. Especially if it's a case of, maybe it's a case of you ask them about it, but because you're priced out, you can't afford it. But at least then, if you're in a position later on, you can pivot in order to, like, you need a roadmap to success. You don't want to be stuck. Like, okay, I've got this website. I've now moved up here. What do we look for after?
I think
the fact?
It's one of the biggest one. If I had to pick one, would be the quality of the work.
Yeah, massive.
If a person is saying this is the work we've done before and there's statistics to back it up, that'll speak volumes.
Yeah.
And testimonials.
Testimonials, yes. I mean, another slight flex. We've got over 30. It should be over 40, but Google's hating on us. And yeah, reviews do say a lot, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't fake the funk.
No, you've got to be the right fit for each other. If you're going to work with an agency, an agency might be a great fit for somebody else, might not be a great fit for you.
That's a great point.
And vice versa as well.
Yeah, 100%. Just for digital agencies looking to work with somebody, not selling yourself short or opening yourself up to every single customer, because some customers can burn you for the worst, like we found out ourselves. Trials and tribulations, but yeah. So question 5, final question in this section. Can you recommend any tools or platforms for beginners to design their own website? So I've put this in myself just because we understand, like, the way that we started up, which we'll cover in a future episode or something. There was people with different skill sets, right? And at the point that we was birthed, I was the person responsible for our website, which was
I like it.
Yeah, which was
birthed.
Yeah. I had the expertise in WordPress, although it was limited. It was enough to get websites up and running. Right, there's a lot of people that start a business and they won't even have that, but they need something just to put themselves on the map, whether it's a business profile or a website. So I suppose maybe just to change this a little bit as well, the tool and platform doesn't necessarily need to be a website because Google profiles exist.
That's where I was going in my mind. So I think if you don't have any experience in creating websites, you could get a page builder style drag and drop thing from GoDaddy or 123reg or somebody like that, but you don't have any experience in designing the site, it's going to come out exactly the same as if you tried it with WordPress. With less development.
Fair,
So I wouldn't recommend doing that. If you have no experience whatsoever, you're not going to get something that's going to work for you. It's just that's just a fact. You'll get a website,
but it might not be the best representation of.
But it's not going to be the best representation of you, your business, and it's not. It ultimately will not get you what you need. And 9 times out of 10, people need leads. It won't get you those high quality leads. It might, if it's bad, it might put people off your company altogether. But that's another topic.
But
tools, you need a Google My Business page because it's free. It gets you on the Google Map. Upload stuff on there. Get your social accounts because again, that's all free as well. But only get social accounts that are relevant.
Relevant. Potentially going to maintain, upload to.
Absolutely. If you've got a TikTok account for your manufacturing business, great. But if you're not posting anything on there, there's no point. If you're posting really boring videos on there, if you're posting funny videos like Ryanair do, or
ways and means to make
Duolingo,
the media
for example,
to work for you, right? So although, like in our case, a manufacturing business, maybe on TikTok, they're not necessarily videoing their products. There might be
our clients aren't going to be on TikTok, but they will be on LinkedIn.
Yes, exactly.
So pick the right one. And if you do have a website that you've built yourself and you're happy with, and you've got that experience, you need tools like Google Analytics, Microsoft Clarity. Install them so you can get data and you can figure out what's going on.
Cool. I think that's covered those questions, to be honest. So going through, I mean, we have covered a lot in a short space of time. And I think that's what we're trying to do, right? Because each time we discuss something, there's going to be something that we can take away and discuss even further. This is the nature of the business. This is the nature of our business. And this is the nature of progression as a whole.
Yeah, well, I think what we're trying to do here with this podcast is just to break down a topic
each
that
time
might be relevant for you and your business at the time. And give our opinions, give our ideas, and if you can give any practical advice like what tools you need or what you should be thinking of when you go out to commission a website or build your own. We're just here to educate, really.
So some practical takeaways that they can take away from what we're saying from this episode, and anything they can implement. And I think one of the things has already been mentioned. If you are a business that's starting out, the Google business profile is a massive one from the get-go. If you haven't got one.
And it takes like 5 minutes to set up as well.
So that's going to be one of your main portals, and you'll be shocked at how well the Google business profile will work with your social profiles if you keep them updated and relate them to all.
Even if you've got a website without a Google My Business profile, it's going to be really hard for you to rank in that local box anyway. So you've got to have it. Just make sure your information's up to date and relevant, because for a while for a couple of years we had software developers on ours, which is technically correct. But
it wasn't the term people was looking for.
It wasn't the term people were looking for, and we weren't competing with our competitors in the city. Until we changed it to web designers.
If there's anything else that has been of interest in this episode to you, we do offer a web audit on our website. It's free of charge. It can be found at voidapplications.co.uk/web, free web audit. All I know is the links will be in the description, so you don't have to memorize from this. But we will include all the links.
Remember it next time.
Yeah, I'll definitely remember it for next time. But can you just talk us through what is included in that?
Absolutely. So a web audit is if you already have a website for your business, or you've made one yourself, or you've had another developer agency create it, we can go through it and we can review it for you. We review the speed, the SEO, best practices, and the structure. It's completely free, and I'll go through it with you in a half an hour call, and I'll tell you exactly what you're doing well, what you're not doing well, and where you can be improving it.
For evidence on the tape, they don't have to take up the offer after the fact, do they?
No,
it's completely free.
The web audit is completely free. If you want to work with us afterwards, that's up to you. If you want to take it and work with your existing developer, great. It's up to you.
Right then, I suppose we're going to draw on to the conclusion and just say thank you for listening to the first episode. It's actually gone quite well.
Yeah, I think we might have done that in one take.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, not including the beatbox sessions and the
Oh, yeah, of
clapper
course.
being used 3
Yeah.
or 4 times. Yeah. So if you've enjoyed the podcast and you want to listen to more of us and keep up to date, then please visit our website voidapplications.co.uk.
I'm going to sound really old and say smash that like button.
I'm not gonna say that. Bro, you threw me completely off. Yeah, please thumbs up where possible and subscribe. You can listen to this podcast on all available places, all being well, because this is the first one and we haven't got that far. This is proof of concept, but all well-known places you can subscribe. And the video version for the audio listeners will be uploaded to YouTube at the VOiD Applications YouTube channel. But anywhere that you've got this podcast from, you can go into the description and find the link. So yeah, please tune in for the next episode. Engage with our content on social media. Let us know your questions and what your thoughts on anything. What your thoughts are on any of the topics that have.
If there's any
that came
topics
up.
that you are really want to hear from us about, just get in contact and we'll add it to the schedule and we'll start answering your questions.
Yeah. So yeah, just want to say thank you to Keaton behind the camera. Thank you to Nathan for technical support and making sure that we record everything proper. We will have some fixtures eventually. Unfortunately not today,
We'll
but
get
yeah. First episode done.
Yeah. Cue outro music.
Yeah, cue outro music. Thank you everybody and
Thank you.
goodbye.
I think that went really well.